Hey everyone, welcome back. So, as the holidays approach, a new level of stress, depression, and anxiety emerges for many individuals. And our next guest decided to create Salvaged Sawhorse, a collection of self love, affirmation decks, and self care planners to help jumpstart one's wellness routines. And throughout her artwork, she strives to create tools that help women put themselves first and, well, step into their power. Joining us to tell us more, we welcome artist and founder Jennifer Velasquez. Hello and welcome.
Hi, Rhina. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, welcome. And I can't thank you enough for what you've chosen to create. But and I'm saying this from a person who is also on this path to exercise self-justice and just being still and pausing and applying that same level of passion that I give to all my projects to oneself. And it's a very interesting concept that I hope that we'll be able to really express to our viewers how important it really is. And so I would like to open up with just, if you don't mind, just sharing with our viewers the fact that you actually grew up with chronic pain and how that is kind of the catalyst to the development in this style of business, right? Because it's healing and art combined, which is beautiful.
That's exactly right. Yeah. First of all, I agree with everything you're saying. It's so true that women, we pour so much energy out into the world and then feel resistance to throw that around and pour it right back into ourselves. So I grew up with migraines, and migraines were such a big part of my life because my mother had them, my father had them, and sure enough, when I turned 12, I got my first migraine. And it was just like your regular, couple of times a month. It didn't get bad until I was in my 20s. And then I was labeled a chronic migrainer, which means that you get 15 or more migraines a month.
Oh my God.
I'm in college. I'm graduating college with my first job, and I'm like having to take days off. I have to run to the bathroom in the middle of the workday to be sick, where coworkers were asking me, like, are you pregnant? And I'm like, no, I'm just chronically sick all the time. And so it was taking a huge toll on my mental health. And a lot of people that have chronic illnesses, they come up with it triggers different mental illnesses, right? Anxiety, a lot of depression. So I was talking to my neurologist, who was actually one of the few great neurologists in my life, who was really progressive and really thought outside the box. And she's like, I think you're having some depression. Before I put you on any medication, because you're taking enough for your migraines, how about you check how you're talking to yourself? How about you start interrogating these negative thoughts that are coming up, and just be easy on yourself. Give yourself some love. And I'm like, okay, so how I talk to myself will change how I feel about myself. She's like, yeah. I'm like, oh, wait. And so I delved into the world of affirmations, and over time, I was still sick. I was still getting migraines, but how I felt about them changed. I saw myself as like a warrior. Can I say that?
Well, you already said it. It's all good. It went like this.
I am doing all these things despite my pain. And so I realized, affirmations really matter. And in college, I had studied neuroscience. I have some background in that. I have background in adult counseling. And I thought, let me create these tools so that others can use them and experience the transformation that I felt. And it's made a huge difference.
Yeah, I get it. I'm really taking in everything you're sharing deeply, because it's really a matter of perspective, right? And that's how you're living in your day, right? Yes. So it's like you made this decision that, well, I have to deal with this chronic pain. So the question becomes is how I deal with this chronic pain.
That's exactly right. Yes.
And then the artistry behind your concept, right? And I know we're going to be showing images of your work, which is so simple, but yet it's really a big deal. And I really want to emphasize that, because I'm a person who basically reads affirmations as frequently as possible, but to provide them so simply on a deck in which you can mount it and just shift it every day according to whatever that mood is, it really does make a world of a difference in how you step into your day.
Absolutely. You're priming yourself. It's the first thing that you take in instead of scrolling through your phone. And it's something that can anchor you, that you can go back to throughout the day to really give you some guidance.
And so let's just share with everyone. I mean, you gave us a brief insight as to how it's impacted your condition, but in general, in starting the business and your clients, like what kind of feedback have you been receiving?
You know, it's funny because I created my products. You know, there's other affirmation decks on the market, and I was really intentional to create it from my specific experience. You know, a Latina woman growing up in Queens with parents that kind of were in survival mode and didn't have the space to give me words of affirmation. So I really wanted to bring it back to that. And it turns out that my clients are very much like me. So what they tell me is that like the patience that they give themselves, they didn't realize they could give themselves that patience. A lot of them use my affirmations in Spanish, and they feel
I
that,
was going to just ask that, right? Because you said Latina, so I'm assuming you made them
yeah,
bilingual.
I do. So I have my affirmations in Spanish, and I have people tell me that it's like they're healing their inner child in their native tongue. They're saying the loving words that maybe their parents didn't have space or the conscience to give them back when they were 5 or 6. I have people that do it with their mom. I have people that do it with their sisters. So it's like another point of connection. I think that you know, we've gotten to the point where affirmations are widely accepted and they're all rooted in science. It's not something woo ha ha, it's something that's rooted in how the brain works. And the fact that we have things like neuroplasticity, where when you do something enough, your brain changes, then why don't we use that to our advantage and help work on ourselves?
And apply it to ourselves, exactly how we opened up the conversation. And then, I want to make sure that we don't run out of time without discussing the planner, because I did have a brief conversation with you prior to getting on air with regards to how we live in a digitized age and how everything is scheduled on my digital calendar versus now I'm interested in going back to writing it. And the fact that you've created a calendar for self-planning,
Yes.
that is like, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And do you remember? I remember my teachers would always say, like, write over your notes. Like, yes, you're in the lecture, but physically write down your notes. There's something about the act of pen and paper that helps us really absorb what we're trying to take in. And I think that with a planner, with paper, it helps you prioritize your tasks. It's so easy to just add something to the calendar, to just copy something in your to-do list. But when you're writing it down, it gives you a focus.
I
And
agree.
you're planning in your self-care, not just your productivity.
Right. Which lately that's been my thing. Right. And especially during this particular time of the year, during the holidays, things tend to slow down. People tend to become more pensive. I mean, perhaps I'm really even speaking about myself. And then it becomes a question of like, oh, am I just going to rest? Meaning like sleep and collapse, or am I going to actually plan the self-care of tending to myself, right? Something as simple as taking a bath, a nice, essential oil bath, or whatever that is, or just taking a walk and being in nothing. Like, it's important to actually schedule it in, at least for
Right.
someone like me, so that nothing else interferes with that time slot that's committed or that we've committed to ourselves. And I think we're all coming back to that, especially after having been, sheltered in place for so long due to the pandemic.
Mhm. And there's something that you said that's so true, that I have another deck called the Feed the Soul deck, and it's different activities you can do to take care of yourself, right? And what I find is that if you don't kind of step outside of your daily routine, rest usually looks like scrolling or binging Netflix or TV shows, and they are rewarding for a little bit, but after a while, they can empty you out more than they give you.
That's
So
beautifully said. Yes, that
So
is so
planning out
beautifully
help.
said.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. And I hope everybody's getting it, because it's like, yeah, that putting out, you don't even realize, because it's an invisible substance that you can actually restore and
Or back
just
in.
to yourself. Yeah.
And it's what you said, during the holidays, especially women, they're the ones responsible for all the magical joy of the season. It's usually moms and women that create it in their lives. And this time of year, when everyone's connected and happy and together, people can feel the loneliest and the tiredest. So your self-care matters the most right now.
Once again, thank you, Jennifer Velasquez. And you guys, if you're interested in Salvaged Sawhorse and purchasing some affirmation decks and or self-care planners, you can visit thesalvagedsawhorse.com. All right, stay tuned because Bobby C's Weekly Sports Roundup is coming up next.